All right, everyone. First off, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. To our panelists, everyone watching at home, thank you so much for celebrating our 4th annual Reach Appreciation Day. We are thrilled to be here, and we have a really amazing group of alums spanning all the way from high school up through the original class, the OG class, as we say, of Reach alums, to talk with us a little bit about their experience in the program and how their experience in the program has influenced their trajectories, both in education through high school and college and beyond in Steve's case. So we're really excited to hear their perspective. Stepping back for a second, a little bit about the purpose of Reach Appreciation Day. It's really to continue to spread the mission of the Reach program, to share more, not just about our program and what we are seeking to accomplish, but to bring our mission to life through the stories of our alums, the ways that it has impacted them, and the ways that they have gone on to impact their communities in all of the various steps that have followed their time in Reach, graduating as middle schoolers and moving on from there. So just this is the, as I said, the 4th annual Reach Appreciation Day, and it's a particularly exciting moment for the Reach program as we find ourselves in the midst of our 20th Reach Summer. Just heading back, doing the math, starting back with the Reach program in 2002, the first summer, where I'll let Steve introduce himself in a second, but where the first group of Reach Pioneer candidates would have headed out to Scranton, and now just finishing our 20th. It's definitely lots of reason to celebrate. And so just to quickly introduce myself before I toss it over to our alums to do that. I will let everyone know I am the Reach Director of Graduate Support. I am finishing up my 3rd year in this role, and it has been an honor and a privilege to serve in this role for the past 3 years. I started off as a Reach counselor back when I was in high school, when I was a rising senior in high school, and I was a counselor for a couple of years, a collegian for 3 years, actually alongside Steve here, and since then, that was really what inspired me to want to get into education. So though I am not a Reach alum, I know I owe so much of my own path and my own success to how Reach influenced me to take the direction that I'm in. But that's enough about me. We are here to learn from the reflections and the wisdom of our alums on this call. So I'll go ahead now and I shared this with everyone before we started recording, but I'll just have a couple questions to ask everybody, and we'll go around and we'll have each one of you answer them, and we'll do so first starting off by way of introduction. So if you could just kind of start off by sharing your name, and you could share your Reach graduation year, the high school that you went to in your high school graduation year, and then the same for college and your college graduation year, if you have graduated college, and then we will, and then for in Steve's case, you can share a little bit about what you're up to professionally. So yeah, we'll start off. I guess I will toss it. Let's start off with our youngest on the call, Sebastian. I'll toss it to you, and you can lead us off.
Yeah, my name's Sebastian Huerta. I was a Reach class of 2018, and I'm currently attending Regis, and I will be graduating next year, 2022. I don't currently know about college, so I guess I'll just pass it on to Alexis.
All right, sounds good. I'm Alexis Gonzalez. I was Reach class of 14, then Fordham Prep class of 18, and now soon to be Fordham U class of 2022. And in terms of anything career-wise, tentative, but I have some ideas, got some things I'm thinking about. Pass it on to Steve.
Aside from being a professional Reach collegian, Alexis, that too.
Okay, every year, back at it again.
That's right.
You already know what next year is.
I love that, Alexis. I'm with you there. I'm being a Reach collegian lifer. All right, so don't be ashamed. It's good stuff. Everybody, Steve Sanchez, graduated Reach class of 05, the OG year. Graduated Xavier High School in 2009, and then University of Delaware 2013. And now I'm currently part of the work study department over at Cristo Rey Philadelphia High School. So yeah, big things. Seeing that we're at the 20th year mark, it makes me feel old, but I was once a collegian for Alexis, and it's good to see that Sebastian is carrying the torch and also being part of the program. So it's good to see that it's still happening. The same cycle still happens. So I'm happy for you guys.
Thanks so much for that, Steve. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because if you didn't, I would have. We have lots of legacies here, and obviously all of you serve in the Reach community, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But through everyone's service to the program on our summer staff, sharing that experience. So I guess we'll start off, and I'll the question here, and I guess we can go in reverse order if that's all right. So maybe we'll start with you, Steve, on this one. What is a lesson that Reach taught you in the program that you applied to your life beyond Reach, and does that lesson still play a role in your life today?
Yeah, what Reach teaches you a lot of things that you don't realize at the moment of that you've learned. Everyone here, I'm sure, can agree that we learned a lot in the classroom, because that was the main reason we were there. But I would say something that I come back to time and time again is just is understanding opportunity. And I think I can even think back to when my mother first was kind of championing the program, especially not knowing, what this was and what she was sending me out for, trying to help me understand the opportunity that was being described that they were going to give us. And then as each year went on, there was even a point where I thought I didn't want to go to the Saturday programs anymore. I thought it was too much. And again, had a talk where she supported me. She said, whatever your decision is, I'll support it, but just remember the opportunity. And like Reach has taught us, over time, as you get older, you self-reflect, and I always come back to this day, especially when it comes to my career trajectory and the paths that I want to take, is opportunity. Never, I relish in the opportunities I've been given, the opportunities that I'm going to be afforded based on the relationships I've made, and yeah, so it's all about opportunity and the opportunity I've been given. That's probably one of the biggest lessons outside of Mr. Cole's math classes that I learned.
And Mr. Cole back here with us this summer, by the way. So he'll be appreciated to hear that shout out. He'll appreciate that. We'll let him know. If we could toss it to Alexis, that'd be great. Thank you for that answer, Steve.
Yeah, for me, I would say a lesson that I learn every day, I think, but I learned at Reach was like a willingness to fail. Just as a kid growing up, I was kind of at home a lot, right? It was like the big thing was the studies. So going to Reach, we always got into these situations. They're like, all right, today we're going to a river and you're gonna climb this tree or whatever, and I'm like, just being put out of my element all the time, or even just in a classroom around kids that are, at the level where I'm not just competing, but like a lot of the time being outshined, and I'm like, okay, I don't have to be the best, but just putting in my effort is something that can fulfill me. And again, learning it every day. Now, recently being in diaspora, being a part of that program, I was basically in a teaching position. Did not go too far into it, but I have no real teaching experience besides like some electives, and going in every day and trying lesson plans and fixing things on the fly. And Sebastian was in those classes, so he can speak to. Sometimes it was very apparent. Sometimes seemed like I had everything put together. But just being willing to go in there every day and try again was something that I feel dates back to my first days at Reach. Like, just, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna improve a little bit every day.
I love that. Being open to growth that challenges us, I think, is something that we, taking it to our first principle, not just being open to growth and like trying new things, but rather being open to do the things that might lead us to failure, that push us to grow even further. Learning that Reach day one, no doubt, and taking it all the way through this past summer. Thank you for that, Alexis. And Sebastian, please.
Yeah, I just want to say Alexis was an excellent teacher, by the way. Put that out there. So for me, I mean, similar to sort of what Alexa said. I'm going to go with the basic response, I guess, which is open to growth. It's sort of the thing that gets drilled into you since day one. You've sort of always told to have this openness to trying new things, whether it be academically, extracurriculars, things like that. But I think for me, it really applied a lot when I got into high school and I was given the chance to try out a lot of new things, participate in a lot of different clubs, sort of try to find out what I liked. And I think that first year that I was in high school, it was sort of hard for me to put myself out there. I wasn't really the one involved in a lot of clubs. But as I sort of went on, I sort of remembered that message, sort of that idea that has been, you know, taught through Reach and, you know, sort of hammered in during the time that I was in the program. And I think that was really, really helpful for me moving forward, getting more confident, the ability to, you know, try new activities. I think that I can give a lot of credit to Reach for actually putting me on that path. And I think that the second thing that really is important and stands out to me from my time at Reach in the lesson is independence. I think going away for 3 summers and then just generally having to focus on yourself, focus on the work, depend on yourself, obviously those around you, but a lot of time is spent you know, working on yourself and working on the things that the habits that you have to build yourself. I think that was really important, a lesson for me to learn at that specific point in my life, and I think it's definitely still applies to me today. And in everything that I do, I always try to remember that, you know, working with others is important, but I have to go back to those initial lessons that I've learned and just try to build for myself and build the habits that are going to help me in the future.
Thank you for that. Certainly ending on a strong point there, Sebastian, in knowing obviously the importance of community, which we'll talk about in a bit, but also knowing that there's a Reach does a lot of work to seek to develop that sense of independence and sense of capability. And really, I think about that in terms of classes, but also, as I'm sure you'll all remember, just making your bed, keeping a clean keeping a clean room out in Scranton, and having to organize your materials. And take the right amount of food when you're in the dining hall and things as such. We'll get into favorite memories later on. But Steve,
don't forget the 5-minute shower cap. You know,
the 5-minute shower cap.
5-minute shower limit.
That's right, and we know that from you guys doing it, but also monitoring your advisements as collegians and doing that too. Well, great, thank you. I think what we'll do is we'll snake actually in the opposite direction for this next question. So Sebastian, if that's all right, we'll start off with you here. So, as I'm sure you all remember, the fifth Reach principle, we spent some time talking about the first one there of being open to growth, but the fifth Reach principle is being a servant to the community. How did Reach inspire you to serve your communities outside of the program? And so I'll toss it to you first, Sebastian.
Yeah, for me, there are really two main ways in which I was inspired by Reach to help my community. And the first one was the Arupe project that I had to complete at the end of my, I think it was 4th year, so it would have been when I was in 8th grade. I got involved with a food pantry that was close to my neighborhood with someone from Reach, a close friend of mine who I'm still friends with today. And initially, it was just supposed to be one of those things that I sort of complete as a project. You know, it's one of those things where I just wanted to exercise the servant to the community, that whole idea. But the more I worked, the more I actually found myself enjoying the work that I was doing. And it's, to me, crazy how much the work that we've done there has changed, and the people who we helped have changed. But at the end, it's still that sort of idea of Reach, of servant to your community. So this pantry, when I initially started going, it was really just this basement where we had this small closet and sort of gave out food and gave out some cans. But as time has progressed, and especially during the pandemic, we've gotten a lot bigger. We've gotten funding from the city. We've gotten a lot of, you know, grant support, to the point where we are able to feed, you know, 300 families a week. And not only people who come to us, but we're also able to go and deliver food for, you know, lots of different people around our neighborhood. So I think for me, that was the main thing that stuck out to me from being a servant to your community. Working with one of my classmates was important to me, and just putting the things that I'd learned at Reach into practice was really important for me. There's also one more case where I put this principle into action, which was at Regis. There was a project which, once again, I worked with someone on Reach, from Reach, on this, a project to interview a lot of the faculty, a lot of staff, to get their perspectives on race at Regis and how we could make the environment a much more inclusive place, and especially in light of a lot of the issues with racial diversity, inclusion that have occurred over the past couple of years. We wanted to really address that at Regis and look at how we could change our community for the better. And ultimately, I think that obviously stems from Reach and the things that I was taught, that if you look around, the people who are at Regis, I want to help them and support them, and ultimately just make the school a better place. So for me, this principle is probably one of the most important, and I've definitely tried my best in my life to, build on.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing all that, Sebastian. Thank you so much. And I've gotten to see the amazing work that you've done in both of those capacities, and in particular, having been one of the first, I remember, faculty or staff members that you all interviewed, and seeing how that's developed from those initial ideas to actually now sort of presenting to the community on your findings and the ways that you might recommend that we can continue on our path to be as inclusive as a community as possible. I think has been a really incredible project that you've all worked to do, and again, highlighting, as you pointed out, doing so alongside another Reach alum who you graduated with when you finished the program. So thanks for sharing about that. And that's certainly something, if anyone's watching that wants to learn more, I know that you or your partner would be more than happy to share. So thank you there, Sebastian. I'll toss it to you, Alexis.
I'd say for me, what Reach kind of taught me is, well, first off, again, starting from the Arupe project, I think the Arupe project is like the big thing that is like, oh, service. But for my Arupe project, it was more so about seeing the Sunday school curriculum and like how we could kind of change it to make it actually engaging with kids as a kid who went to them and didn't quite feel engaged. But one of the big things for me was the interviews, and from there, listening to people, right? And compassion from that, really like finding the answers from like external sources and not necessarily from yourself. I would say that compassion and listening to people, two kind of examples I have are, one thing, when I was in high school and, having the opportunity to go to Fordham Prep, which was a really good school, which directly kind of led out from going to Reach and getting all that help there. That's not something that all of my friends in my middle school got. So kind of going through high school, I'd often find like they're having all these problems with stuff that is like second nature to me, stuff that's like, it's not even necessarily an issue because I'm getting help from Reach. I'm getting help from guidance counselors, and their guidance counselors like aren't necessarily helping them the same way. They're going to a school where they're not being helped at the same level, and kind of listening to their issues and helping them with those, and also realizing like, I have to be compassionate here because this is second nature to me. But this thing that's simple, like, to me, again, it's something that no one was there to give them the compassionate guidance toward. And now I'm supposed to be that. So I can't be the guy that's like, how are you not getting this? Right. And, like with college, for example, I'm out here, I have my, like all my essays and stuff done like 6 months in advance. And I'm like, so where are you thinking of going? They're like, oh, I don't know. I haven't. We're like towards the end of senior year, and they're like, I have no idea. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is the part where we go in. So that's kind of one way that compassion is something I learned about from Reach. And another thing that kind of, this is more, I guess, in a casual way, but I've been like having a lot of conversations with like homeless people lately. Like just, it's amazing how often I'll stop and just hear someone out, right? And one thing I learned was like, oh, just get some food sometimes, right? Because, sometimes people have issues about, well, what's the best way to help? I like to just get some food and we'll chat, we'll chop it up. And the number one thing I hear is like, so often like people won't like, you stop to talk to me. Like you acknowledged my existence for a second. So just like that's another way that compassion comes out to me, because it's like, it's such a split second thing that they'll mention it, but I'm like, I keep hearing it. and I keep hearing it. And all I did was like get you a water or like a juice and talk to you about a Jim Jones fight or some random thing, whatever it'll be that we talk about in that moment. So yeah, compassion, listening to tie it together.
Appreciate that, Alexis. And one thing I do want to just share with everyone who might be watching and is unfamiliar with the Arupe project. The Arupe project is the third year capstone service project that our students do before they graduate from the program. And that can be service at a particular organization or in Sebastian's case, as he mentioned, a food pantry in his parish, or actually creating an awareness project to bring greater awareness to a social justice issue that you might find of particular meaning and importance to you and your community. Basically, all of the work that we do throughout our Civitas curriculum, which is a civics curriculum, it capstones in this moment where our students get to identify a problem in their community and seek to tackle it. So hearing a little bit about the Arupe project from Alexis and Sebastian, that's what that is. So I'll toss it to you, Steve.
Thanks. I'll thank you for the education on it, because unlike these two fine young gentlemen here, being part of the original class, we were very much the guinea pigs in a lot of things, and we weren't afforded the opportunity to do an Arupe project as part of our capstone. But it's something that I've loved hearing about ever since I've seen the at graduation when they talk about particular projects that really took the cake that year, and so it's great to see that those two things are very important to you guys when it comes to that fifth principle that we love so much. So for me, I won't be talking about my Arupe project. I will be talking a little bit about just, I think, my overall, like, the way I think about community has changed throughout the years, and it's relative to what you want it to be. So for me, every time I can start from when we first learned about it in the Reach program, where we were trying to get my confirmation hours. So I started going out in the community and trying to find those volunteer hours where I could do work. Going into high school, when I found out that we have a CFX program at Xavier, where you're a companion of Francis Xavier, you go out, you can either go to Tennessee or you can go to Mexico, and you can go and build a home through Habitat for Humanity. And my first opportunity of doing that was I got to go to Tijuana, Mexico, and it was something. It's something I hold dear and special to me and the group that I went with, the group of guys that I was with, and which led me to, when I was able to start working at Xavier, I volunteered my time in the summers to be a counselor, to be one of the chaperones for the groups, because that to me was so important, to be able to go out somewhere that I didn't have to go out there. I didn't have to fundraise my way to get out there. I could have enjoyed my summer that particular week, but I wanted to provide some good. And that stems from the fifth principle that I always say got drilled into our head, but it was something that was a seed that was planted, for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, it's something that just kind of, it goes with you as you keep doing things. When I started becoming a counselor for the Reach program, to me, like, I wanted to be a servant to Alexis and Sebastian and to all the young boys that were going through that same experience. Like, to me, that was giving back. That was another community of which I thought, it was my duty to be a servant to that community and give them what I could and help them get to the point that they needed to be getting at, because I owe my entire existence up until this point to the Reach program and where it's gotten. Then you flash forward, I was able to be a collegian. I got to meet Mr. Quinones over here, fostering a lot of good friendships, still giving back to the community. And then even at my current position, being able to service a population of majority Black and Brown students, I mean, that's a dream to me, because I love Xavier, I love Regis and Fordham and all that, but like, for me, I want to be able to give someone like me an opportunity that I was given. Going back to my first response, it's all about opportunity, being able to have someone tell you about that opportunity and give it to you. So again, new community, Philadelphia community is great, different from New York City, but a community nonetheless that needs servants. And I'm more than happy to be that. But that fifth principle, that seed that was planted, it kind of follows you. And until moments like these where you have to kind of go through and explain it a bit, it's funny how it comes full circle. But to me, that's what it is. It's being a servant of whatever that community that speaks most to you. And very proud of you boys for those group A projects, and hopefully you can find yourselves in more opportunities as you get older. You know, finding yourselves being a servant to multiple communities, wherever you feel like you can do your best good. Whatever your skill is, you use that to help serve your community. That's definitely another thing that you learn from Reach.
Appreciate you dropping that wisdom, Steve. Yeah, Alexis, you have something you want to add?
No, I was just gonna say, like, looking at you and looking at Steven specifically, and like how you guys carried yourselves back when you were the collegians and I was a third year. Like, it's kind of this is my 5th year now that I've worked at Reach, right? 3 years as a collegian, 2 years as a counselor, and it's like, yeah, every year I'm just like, all right, how can I kind of be what Steven and Russell were for me? Like, I kind of looked up and I was like, yeah, they're doing it. They're doing it. And just wanting to be that for these kids.
That's high praise. It's high praise, man. We were figuring it out just like
right.
You were. So you're doing exactly what you need to do.
I'm glad you thought that. No, I really appreciate that you sharing that, Alexis. It's an honor to know that we would have served as examples for the amazing work that I've had the opportunity to see you do here with the program this summer and in prior summers. Reach at Zoom last year, just rolling with the punches. Alexis was a big part of the success there for his advisement and the candidate students. So I guess I would say one thing that really is impressed upon me after hearing all of your answers there is the way that your communities have shifted over the years. Obviously, Steve talking a little about and Sebastian, what it was like for them to do this service in high school and how that sort of stemmed from the seed being planted through the 5th principle and what it looks like through college and how you seek to serve. Alexis talking about his friends in college and even in the transition from high school to college and kind of how that service evolves to being able to give back to the Reach program, but then also how you can always keep an others minded and others focus in serving your new communities as you traverse from middle school to high school to college and always finding the need and always trying to see how you can address it. So I think we had some incredible examples there of servants to communities here on this call. So thank you all for that. This next one, I guess we can go ahead and snake back. And the last one, we'll do a little grab bag because it's fun, whoever feels like jumping in. But for this one, we can start off with Steve here again. So something that has always impressed me from the years of having worked with Reach as a counselor collegian, as Alexis was speaking to, is the strength of the bonds that are forged within the program and how they last far beyond graduation, both with your fellow Reach classmates, but then also with the program itself. And so, we know you've come back to work over the years, but how have you kept in contact with the Reach community since graduating from the program, and what's inspired you to stay connected to Reach and to support the program and its mission since your graduation? So if it's okay, Steve, I'll throw it back to you.
More than okay. So, I've been very fortunate to stay in contact with at least a few guys who then are in contact with other guys. Like we have a pretty decent network of guys that are still in contact. Mainly, I'll give a shout out to Matt Uoa. Him and I have definitely remained the most in contact from that class, at least from my end. We ended up we split ways. He went to Regis, I went to Xavier, and then came back together for the University of Delaware, where by the grace of God, we somehow ended up in a dorm room diagonal from each other. So we were on the same floor, different roommates, but God works in mysterious ways, and I credit him for helping me kind of have another person there that I knew was from the same background, things of that nature, in that college setting. But so yeah, me and Matt Uova still keep in contact. But the biggest thing that I think, and it was great to see when Justin Hunt and Kwaku Frimpong, when they helped kind of create the alumni board, and I was very fortunate to be a part of that springboarding of that, and where we had the first Reach alumni basketball tournament that came back, and just being able to get multiple years together and that community, and especially guys from '05, just being able to answer the call, reaching out, hitting guys up on Facebook and stuff like that, and it being no problem. Like it was kind of like, it was like restarting that friendship, like there wasn't a several year gap, you know. It's inspiring to me to see that, and I think it's just because of the experience that we went through. It was novel when we went through it, and then now to, you know, I'm sure for the old heads that are going to see this and say, oh damn, 20 years, to see that it's still going, it's growing, and to hear all the updates and things like that, like that's what keeps, at least, you know, my group together, is being able to talk to each other about the experiences, having guys like myself who are able to like work in it and give, you know, insider information about how things were going. That has kept a lot of guys interested and committed. But seeing every time we've done an alumni thing, whether it was on Zoom or whether it was in person, when we did the in-person at Xavier up in the Rupe Library, just seeing people come back, to me, it's a no-brainer. That's why I came back to work at the program. But yeah, that's the way that we've stayed connected, is just like one guy, and then that guy knows another guy, and then when it comes time to do an alumni event, you know, just make the call. Hopefully it works out, and we'll get a bunch of guys out there. So I'm glad you're impressed by it, because I'm still impressed that a lot of us are still keeping in contact. It's been a very, very long time. There's few instances where you can say, hey, I still know the guy that I met, and I'm good friends with him since 5th grade. Like it's a crazy thing nowadays to have that kind of friendship.
And we shared a dorm room together when we were 10 years old.
Yeah, no one really ever says that. So
right. I appreciate that, Steve. I'd love to throw it to you now, Alexis.
Yeah, what kind of inspires me to keep, I guess, in contact with my Reach brothers from my year and stay with the program every year is just kind of like, well, I mean, it's a Jesuit program, right? Society of Jesus. And when I think of Jesus, I think of someone who not only doesn't just have, you know, his apostles, his homies, his main group, but also went out and, you know, he would speak to lepers, and these are supposed to be the outcasts of society, right? You know, he'd go out to people who were sick and he would stay with them. He was the one who goes up to Mary Magdalene and is like, whoa, none of you throw the, you know, who is without sin, throw the first stone, right? He's like, no, we're going to be inclusive here. So kind of creating a sense of belonging, right? And making that for everyone. And in terms of my personal experience, I mean, I'm in a group chat right now with Reach Bros 2014, right? Is the name of the name. Pretty simple, straightforward. We got our Snapchat group chat. You know, we'll post all kinds of, you know, news in there, big, small, happy, silly, sad, whatever it might be. You know, that's how I hear. We were in a heritage call for, it was a Regis Heritage Club, and they invited some of their Reach brothers to come in. So I got to show up to one of those. And, you know, one announcement was like, oh, Ikenna recently finished doing at Yale. He was doing some research at Yale, and he recently got his certification for that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I knew that 2 days ago because it was in the group chat. Yeah, but just kind of still having that place where it's like I can come in and, you know, it's like a group chat. Just like I can come in, I can talk to my brothers about whatever it is, and anything that's going on in our lives, big, small. You know, last year, that was a big support system for us in the wake of George Floyd and everything, like just being able to go in there and like air everything to each other and kind of like as a group grieve and everything. But yeah, and then keeping in touch with, I'm being a little long-winded here, but keeping in touch with also with the Reach family at large, that same thing, you know, and seeing it in the younger kids, remembering when I was one of them and like thinking like, oh, I'll inspire that in the next kids. And like, also it's just, I feel like kids are nicer now. Maybe I'm bugging, but I don't know. I remember certainly the inclusion and the making everyone feel the solidarity is growing. It's not getting more difficult. It's getting easier.
Hopefully that's true, Alexis. I hope you don't mean compared to you and your class, just saying the kids are nicer than
I mean, we
Regis.
were already the nicest, but the bar was high. But every year,
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's something that I'll say from my experience, especially in this past year through the pandemic, and seeing the ways that obviously over virtual platforms, different group chats and things like that. Every Reach student in college, Reach alum in college who I spoke to would always talk about the group chat that they have, in touch with everybody, and the way that they were able to support each other, lean on each other, be there through difficult times, be there to celebrate each other when there's reason to celebrate, and just share updates. That's something that is consistent through me hearing that from you saying that, Alexis, and every other year of a Reach alum that I get to speak to. So it's awesome to hear you kind of voice that for this forum. So thank you. And yeah, Sebastian.
Yeah, I think for me the fundamental thing that's sort of different from Alexis and Steve is I'm still currently sort of going through I'm going through Regis, which is obviously has a lot of Reach alumni, a lot of people who have gone through the program same year as me, above me, below me. So I'm still very much involved with the community at Regis. But I just want to sort of touch on something that's been mentioned multiple times, which is that Regis, I'd really honestly just say it's sort of a family, in the sense that for me the counselors and collegians that I had, I'm remembering Chris Campbell. He was my counselor for a couple of years, and I know I've talked to Alexis about this, and I know he also sort of knew him. And it's sort of how it gets sort of passed up. You look back at your counselors and your collegians, and you see how they sort of were involved in Reach, and then they go back. They themselves had counselors, had collegians, and it goes all the way back to 20 years ago. And I think that's really, it really goes to show that this community is a very strong one, and even today a lot of people are still involved. It's not like people, once they leave the program, they just never interact with people again. There's a lot of involvement, and I think that's really important. I think even outside of just the Reach program itself, like the friendships that I've made, some of my closest friends now are people who are in Reach, no longer go to Regis or even in the neighborhood. But I think that just being through Reach and through that shared experience that we had, through the bonds that we made, they're still very close friends of mine. And looking now as a counselor, I really think that passing that forward, working, getting involved in the community once again is a really important thing to me. I really hope to sort of pass that on, so that when they are older, when they sort of get involved with if they choose to get involved with Reach, they look back and they think, oh, that was my counselor whose counselor was this, and sort of go all the way down the line. So for me, that's sort of how I've been involved with the Reach community, and how I see it around.
Russell, you're still on mute, but if I can,
Yeah, go ahead.
Sebastian, I think you said that like wonderfully. The biggest thing I think that I've started to see now that I'm older is we've all gone, like us three in this, and by extension Russell's been able to see us go through this, so he's been able to experience it too. But like us three have gone through a unique experience that only we can kind of like hold on to. So that idea of that family, like regardless, like Sebastian, I just met you today, right? But like right away we can go ahead and go back and forth and talk about our experiences. And let's say I'm CEO of whatever, right? I'm obviously going to be looking at you as a top candidate for me, strictly because I know what you went through. And it takes a lot to go through that. I mentioned earlier, like I thought I was going to give up like towards my second year after one of the Saturdays. Like it's something that does take its toll, especially on a young kid, right? It's a lot to ask of them. And like we got to go through it. So you're dead on with that. It's like, it's a family, and it's an extended family at this point. We got a lot of extended cousins, seconds and thirds and things like that. But like, we all went through something unique. And so it's a bond that extends from 05 all the way to 18, and will keep going. And I forgot to share this, Russell, earlier, but like seeing it from my end now, where it's like a lot of my friends who, let's say, have been involved in the program the way that we have, where we've worked in the program, we were part of like a little fundraising campaign recently. And to see the amount of guys that immediately were like, I'll put up what number? Yeah, I'll put it up, because we're working individuals, and yeah, not all of us are making like, incredible amounts of money, but it was all about the idea of like, what do you need? Like, what do these guys need? Because whatever needs to make this program keep going or to help these kids out through the pandemic, like, you let us know and we got them, because we know how important that experience is, where it's taken us, where we all stand currently because of it. And like, that's our duty now. And we know that. And it's the power of what we went through. It's the power of seeing you guys grow up and having even greater aspirations than what we did, because we didn't know what was to come. But now you guys through us, and now the younger kids through you, are seeing what's possible. So I think, like, well said, and I needed to give you kudos on that. And Alexis, you're great, so don't worry about that.
Oh no, I appreciate that, and that I will definitely just kind of second that for sure. Oh yeah, go ahead, Sebastian, please.
I just wanted to say that mentioning those not wanting to wake up on Reach Saturdays like awoke a memory in me that I haven't thought about in like a very long time, which is like my mom like knocking on the door and being like, "We gotta go." And there was like 2 weeks left until I like graduate the program. And I'm like, "Nope, I quit. Like I don't want to go. I'm not going." And then just eventually getting up. But that reminded me.
And pushing through. Alexis, yeah, chime in. What do you got?
Nah, yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, there were more than a few Saturdays with just like how, it's a Saturday first off, but like, and also how rigorous it got, where it's like, straight up, like, I'm going today because I'm trying to see my friends. Like, I'm trying to see my brothers. So like, yeah, definitely it's a family. And also just, you mentioned Chris Campbell. He was one of your counselors, Sebastian?
He was a counselor for me, I think, first year and second year.
Okay, so my first year working as a counselor, he was the collegian I was working under. And then the following year, I was a counselor working under Jeffrey Salavarez, when I was going to be working in, I believe, admissions at Regis.
Mm-hmm.
So just like everything just starts to intertwine and interconnect. It's wild.
That's right. I love it. We're already diving into kind of what this next question is going to be. Maybe the flip side is maybe not the highest points in Reach, but the low points where mom is knocking on the door to wake us up and we're having a tough time making it on a Saturday morning. But I think this would be a great way to finish off this conversation here. And this can kind of be grab bag anybody who wants to jump in. What is your favorite Reach memory from your time in the program? So whoever wants to start, feel free to come off mute and take it away.
I guess I could start. Honestly, there's so many. It's like, I mean, I might even go and say another one, but to me, I think the one that I remember very well is there was this scavenger hunt that we did. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember that was probably like, it was such a fun thing to me. Basically, we were locked in a room essentially, where it was just us. I think our counselor was there, counselors, collegians. We were we were given a sheet of paper with like random sentences, random phrases, and we were very confused as to what we were supposed to do. But we were told that there was this sort of a scavenger hunt, and there was some puzzle that we needed to solve. And eventually, after sort of working together as a group, we ended up finding that there was this riddle within one of the passages, and then we had to do this whole process to solve it. Once we solved it, we went outside, and we just walked all around the campus looking for hints, looking in the bushes, looking, I don't know, in a hole in a tree somewhere, looking to see if, is this the clue? Is this the thing that leads us to the next step? And eventually, after a very long night, well, a very long afternoon, I would say, probably an hour, something like that, we got to the end, and my advisement won, because, I mean, my advisement was an excellent advisement, best advisement. And we ended up winning some prize, but I remember just that experience was great. Having to go through all these steps and just being with others in the program, having to work together, just it symbolized a lot of the things that we did as a whole that summer.
And of course, such a puzzle could have been created by none other than our current director, Mr. Eichmann, for sure, who loves him a good puzzle and loves to puzzle his students. So that's something that actually you'll be happy to know, Sebastian, that we continue to do every summer at Scranton.
I'll take it. So my favorite memory, and again, it's like, just like Seb said, like there are so many, it's like, and then you think of one and it kind of connects to another one, but just ending up my candidate year in the Reach musical elective. I, on the topic of like openness to growth and being willing to fail, etc. So the way it worked is you could rank all the electives from, first to least in terms of which one you wanted. And a lot of kids, or not a lot of kids, but a good amount of kids were putting it last. And I was like, I like Mr. Dion though. So I'm gonna put it like 5, not first, because chill, but I'm gonna put it like 5, 6. And I ended up in the musical, and it was in the musical that actually I really got acquainted for the first time with one of my best friends to this day in the program, because he was in a different advisement, Giancarlo Della Rosa. He's actually in my, Steven's laughing, because he knows there was turmoil between us that year, and Steven like solved it too. That's the wild part, that third year. But yeah, and specifically the way I met him. So here's a good thing coming out of a failure on my part. Specifically, the way I met him is one day he's standing next to, I want to say, Mr. Walsh at the base of in the auditorium. He's standing at ground level, and I'm standing on the stage, and they're having a conversation. I'm like, what would be cool right now? If I like jumped off the stage and did like a superhero landing or something. Zero forethought. But anyways, I jump off, I kind of bump into him. We have like, Mr. Walsh is there, so we have a little exchange where it's just like, hey, did you think about what you were doing for that? And I was like, no, I did not. Yeah, but so our first interaction really being me making a fool of myself and almost killing him in the process. But a guy that I talk to almost on a daily to this day, and who I had my high school experience with, I met that way in the elective I didn't exactly want, making a move I somewhat regret, somewhat don't. But yeah.
We are glad that you're safe, Alexis. And that you were
able, he is.
And now you both are, and now I feel like that it's kind of come back to bite you in any of the candidates who are maybe doing things that you might question you and be like, how did you just do that? You can put yourself, you can empathize in a very genuine way to having been in those shoes. So I appreciate you sharing that, and I do. Getting to see your and Giancarlo's relationship over the years has also been something that's really cool from the time you were, I guess, at that point in 30 years when we worked with you and beyond. So thanks for sharing that, Alexis, your origin story. And then Steve, yeah, take us home.
His origin story. Oh, I love it. That's funny, Alexis, that you bring that up. I don't think, I'm pretty sure I wanted to be involved in the act. So originally the elective was acting, and there was a Regine, his name is Nick Nickage. I took a liking to him. I thought he was a cool dude. Saw that he was moderating that, and did my first ever monologue. It wasn't the last, but I ended up doing it for all 3 years because I don't know, had a good experience. And I think maybe I tried ranking it less than first, and I think after I did the first one, they were like, yeah, you're gonna stay in this for all 3 years. Didn't regret it. I got to be part of 2 really cool musicals. I even got to do some singing with we did, what was it? It was Motown. We were doing Motown hits, and I was background in a lot of them. So to this day, when I hear a certain Motown song, I won't even sing the lines. I'll just do the ooh, like the little parts. But so that was like a ton of good memories in terms of like everyone that was part of any of those musicals and the monologues and stuff. But for me, both of these involved the aforementioned Mr. Cole. So I don't know if Alexis or Sebastian, you've been able to meet Mr. Cole yet. All right, cool. So when Mr. Cole was with us, he was like the assistant director at the time, but also our math teacher. He's very tall, strong man, and we had a lot of fun in his math class. He taught us a lot of good lessons, and I won't go into detail, but there was a lot of hysterical moments for those of you in the 05 that were part of those math classes where we didn't forget how to do math because of the way Mr. Cole taught us. But I always tell this to the younger guys, and I'll tell this to anyone who like wants to know, you know, how things changed over the years. Well, when we first went to Scranton, that was our first experience in dining hall. Now, you guys know the rules for the dining hall. Those rules were created because us 05 kids didn't know how to act at an unlimited all-you-can-eat buffet. So we go in and, you know, again, they didn't know how it was going to go down, but they're like, all right, guys, go get your food and then bring it back to the table. And when we found out we can go back and get more, that's when the problem started. So we would load up, and, you know, there's different cuisines, right? So we would get everything from every cuisine because we wanted to try all the food. And so we were throwing out, we were being very wasteful. We were throwing out tons of food that wasn't even eaten yet. And so it was good on the staff, but they mentioned it to Father Devron, who was the director at the time. And so Mr. Cole, in addition to teaching us math, also taught us the value of not wasting food, and which started the lunch monitoring, which was if you were trying to pass him to put the tray on the belt and he saw any piece of food that still needed to be eaten, you were sitting down with Mr. Cole and having a conversation until that food was done. And this is something, this is one of my favorite memories because Mr. Cole was a trip and he still is to this day. But to this day, I will never, ever leave an apple. I will never throw one out unless I see the core. Like, I eat that apple to the absolute core, no matter how big it started, no matter how small it is, because Mr. Cole taught me how to make sure I finish my fruits and my veggies. So, so it's one of my best memories. But like you guys said, it's like a subset. There's just so many. You can pick from each year has its own. So, and they're all unique, which is why it's a good opportunity for us to be able to kind of get here and talk about our differences and what we experience. But yeah, so you're welcome for those rules.
From math class to how to eat an apple correctly, join the REACH program, and we'll teach it all. No, but thank you guys so much. This has been a blast. In addition to this being really informative for anyone who is watching to continue to learn more about how the REACH mission lives on beyond the time in the program. This has also just been a lot of fun to participate in, and I hope that for anyone who is watching at home is also enjoying both learning, but also getting to see the relationships live and in living color of how this legacy and this family really continues. So thank you everybody for coming in and watching. Thank you again to our esteemed alums, all the way from the REACH class of 2018 to the REACH class of 05. We are continuing through what is our 20th REACH summer, and we look forward to continuing to sharing updates with everyone through this REACH Appreciation Day and beyond. So have a great rest of your day, everyone, and I will go ahead and cut the recording now. See everybody later.